Okay, so you explored the idea of selecting a concept to further develop last week. Do you remember how we talked about all the design thinking strategies that you use to actually make a selection? Those design thinking strategies were creative, critical, and reflective thinking. So this week you should be ready to actually make your decision on the concept you wish to develop for each of your final presentations. That's the stage of the design process we're now moving into, and that is design development. So, now when designers do actually select a concept, they refer back to the design brief, they think about their client's needs, they assess the purpose and the audience characteristics. And, in the design industry, it's not uncommon for designers to go back to their client with, 2 or 3 or even more ideas. But for this outcome, you actually don't need to. You only need to do one option to develop further. So it's actually up to you. It's your decision to make based on the time you've got. So how are you going to make your decision, your concept, which is going to be the best one? Well, it means referring back to your design brief, looking again at the purpose of your design. Is it to advertise? Was it to educate? And it means looking again at your audience and their aesthetic tastes. So it's not about what your favourite design is, but which one your audience will respond to. So the purpose of your finished presentations were determined in your design brief. The purposes, as identified in the Guthrie book, can be to advertise, to depict, to guide, to identify, to inform, to promote, and to teach. And you can remind yourself of these purposes again in the Guthrie text, which is on pages 176, 179. And there are some great visual examples here to help kind of illustrate what each of the purposes are. And knowing the purpose is really important because it helps you to work out how to best target your audience. And designing for your audience means assessing what your audience will be like and drawn to. And the best way to determine this is to look at examples of different visual communications that target the same audience. So go back to your research and your audience mood board and work out again who your audience is and what they'll like. What I want to do here is show you Mimi's audience mood board that she did. Now, Mimi did Viscom last year and she got a really high score for her SAT. She wanted to research advertisements, which is the purpose, for her audience, which she identified as female and male health conscious adults aged between 20 and 30. She identified the conceptual themes of the advertisements she collected for research. And these concepts often feature images of healthy people and they're involved in healthy activities such as running and yoga. They also feature images of food and healthy eating. And the slogans would often feature keywords that express the sentiments required, such as life and enjoy and health. She also identified some of the common design elements, such as the colour blue, which, symbolises peace and serenity, and the blue sky, representing the outdoors, and green, which symbolises healthy food, ethics, and organic. This helped Mimi to come up with different concepts for her yoga classes advertisement. You can see here 12 different concepts, and you'll see here that there are actually concepts. It's not just images and text positioned in different ways. It's actually a concept. So she's thinking a lot about what each image has to show. She's thinking about a slogan or a sentiment that she's trying to express in each one, and they are all slightly different. So let's have a bit of a close-up look at one of them. Here she's thought about her audience really wanting to take control of their own life, and so she's used appropriate images and text here to really communicate that sentiment. So here we see the hand holding the little person in the yoga pose, and that does represent that idea of control. You can also see she's got really clear annotations that also express this. In this concept, she's used the design principle of cropping, and the figure is cropped deliberately so we focus on the actual figure and nothing else, and we think about how healthy the figure is, maybe how fit it is. The cat just jumped on the screen, sorry about that. And The written content is aligned along the contour of the body, which also re-emphasizes the form of the body and reinforces the message of yoga and the effects of a regular practice on improved flexibility and health. Which brings us to her final poster. She's done 2 posters, but I'm just showing you one here. The second poster actually is of a female, but it's the same concept, and that is of the healthy figure emerging from the unhealthy figure. And she's used a very creative and innovative way to express that. She's also picked up the similar design elements. You can see blue has been used here, which was directly inspired from her research. And you can also see that the typographic style is very casual and informal, and it's italicized, and that was also something that she picked up from her research. So what do you do now? Well, look over your ideas for each presentation. You should have at least 30 of these, and they should be 30 very different concepts. You finished those last week or just before the holidays. Look at which ideas are the most appropriate for your purpose and the audience, not the ones that are most appropriate for you. Which ideas are the cleverest? And that's really important because there are 3 criteria used to assess your final presentations, and one of those criteria is about, you know, the X factor and being original and clever and creative. So it's really important that you pick the best idea now so that you can really explore it to its full extent. You also want to, again, pick the one that's the most original, and you also want to pick the one that is the most appropriate to explore. So you might have had a really fantastic original idea, but if it's using a method or technique that you actually don't have the skills to produce, then you're not going to be able to realize that idea properly. So again, think about, pare yourself back. So think about where your skill level is at, where your time is at, and what you can realistically achieve in the next few weeks. Because again, this will be due at the end of term 3. So you've got to really think about which one you can do. And you really need to communicate which one you've chosen. So you can do that by circling or using a highlighter pen, just to show the concept. And you need to write a comment about why you chose this solution. So again, you need to actually say, well, I chose it because the audience, really likes this idea, or I chose it because the client really wanted me to use this type of theme. So you need to be really clear about that in your annotations. And the development of your chosen design concept is going to take place over the next couple of weeks. So that's design development, and design refinement comes later. You'll use different methods, media and materials, as well as different design elements and design principles. There's another presentation after this one talking about criteria 4, which is the methods, media and materials. And you'll be given lots of examples of student folio pages to help inspire you. Next week we'll look at, and that's week 4, we'll look at the design elements and design principles and how you can use those to further develop your ideas. So again, this week is criteria 4, next week is criteria 5. This week you should really aim to do another 2 to 4 A3 folio pages of design development for each presentation. So what that means in total at the end of this week is 4 to 8 A3 pages. Obviously the number of folio pages depends on the size and quality of the drawings on each folio page, but I'd always say strive for quality rather than quantity. And that's the end of the presentation.